Nick and Spencer back on the Sons of the Shoe podcast. 20-12, Ohio State over Penn State. And there was quite a ruckus in the first half. It looked like it was going to be a career defining mistake by Kyle McCord. Panicked a little bit after a couple of plays, got a strip sack. Penn State player took all the way back. Only, oh no, a defensive holding call to be called. And I got to say, man, like the reaction on social media by like prominent college football analyst Barrett Sallee. I'm not calling names. I'm just saying Barrett Sallee fixes in, and it's like, no, it was 100% a defensive holding call. And then, like, what is it? I can't even remember how many plays later. Devin Brown's in on a goal line package, and the whistles are blowing. The referees are waving their hands frantically. It could have been a Texas-sized year in between the end of the whistle and when Devin Brown got thrown down, and they called a what was it? Unnecessary roughness, a personal foul call, and which again, did it give Ohio State life? Yes, 100%. But was it also 100% the right call? Yeah. And to watch college football analysts just lose like any measure of like, I'm not biased, I don't have my biases because, oh, it's unfair, Ohio State. What, got the right calls? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the objective here. And like, refereeing is bad in college football. It isn't the NFL. There was nothing in that entire game that I saw that rose to the level of mockery of officiating like I see every week, every day, every darn minute in the NFL. I thought and overall, you can quibble with a call here, call there on either side. I thought the referees played no part in the outcome of this game. The mistakes that were actually there were actually called.
Yeah, listen, on the broadcast, I actually got a funny story about this. But real quick, on the broadcast, Joel Klatt, who I have a lot of respect for Joel Klatt. I think he's one of the better color analysts in the game. And I love Gus Johnson. Basically, here I am just salivating at the mouth over the entire Fox broadcast crew. They're incredible. But no,
they
Joel
get paid enough. They get paid enough. They don't need to be paid.
They don't need my endorsement, right? He called it on the broadcast, and he flat out said, like, listen, that was the right call. And here's the thing. The story I have is this. So my I don't know if I should admit this on this podcast, but my parents are actually both Penn State alums. They hate the fact that I live in Ohio and more or less support the Ohio State Buckeyes. It grinds their gears. But
real quick, I'm gonna need their address and their social securities, but that's for off air.
All right, we'll share that off the air. And my dad actually happens to be in State College like today. There's some event for like his fraternity or something like that's going on or whatever. So him and my mom are down in State College. And so I was texting with him a little bit during the game, a little bit after. I was kind of like, hey, I thought Drew Aller was going to play better, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, that defensive holding call that took the touchdown off the board was complete garbage. And I was like, Dad, listen, I don't mean to sound like an Ohio State homer here, but that was like 100% the right call. And his response was, well, the consensus is that it wasn't. And I was like, well, of course, the consensus in State College, Pennsylvania was that it wasn't the right call. What else are they going to say? But no, it was unbiasedly, objectively, it was the right call. And if it happened to Ohio State, like, does that suck? Yeah, it's unfortunate. You don't want to see that happen to your team. It's a big momentum swing. And that's why I feel like it's easy. The refs have an impossible job because in moments like that, you're paid and responsible for getting the calls right. And in that instance, they did. But yeah, when it impacts a play of that magnitude, yeah, of course, it's a big momentum shift and you hate to see that, but I'm okay with the call as long as it's right. And in that instance, it was 100% right. I'm right there with you.
And I also, I think there's a big issue with like when a call happens. Now, in this case, this was a touchdown taken off the board in the first half of the game. But like always, if it happens late in the game, that becomes like a bigger deal. And I actually disagree with that too. And I won't go so far as to say nice things about officials, but like I think we've just gotten to a point in college. It's still acceptable that analysts, and I probably am guilty too if I watch a BG game or an Ohio State game, where if you don't like the end result of the call, well, then you got to question the call itself. No, I think those were the right calls. And I think you start to look at, like, to me, if you want to make up for that call, if that call was so detrimental, then Daquan Hardy should have taken that or caught that punt instead of letting it roll. And what was it? Mirko's punt turned into a 72-yard punt, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want that, then you should have taken advantage, or rather, if you're pissed about that, take advantage of the Penn State punt going off of Fleming's leg that was recovered by Penn State, where the ball it's a 48, and you end up having to punt. If you don't like that, double cover and stick to your coverage on Marvin Harrison friggin' Jr. They did a great job after that first, probably
drive
4 completions. They did a really good job, even within that first drive, of buttoning up. Did Penn State on Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if it was just persistence by Ohio State. At some point, I think Kyle McCord was too locked on to Marvin, almost to Marvin's detriment, like a middle of the game, and he wasn't going to Carnell or Cade or maybe even a underneath on the receiver, but or on the running back. But at the same point, over the course of the game, they found a way to get him open again and just get him the right touches, including that big 18-yard touchdown that pretty much sealed the game with 4 minutes to go.
Well, and that's where we talked about in the first segment, just Ryan Day scheming guys open and making adjustments when things aren't really working. And I thought I really did think he did a brilliant job of that because, like you said, they started to shut down Marvin Harrison. They started to be more locked in on him. I know after that first drive, Penn State moved. It was Kalen King, the same corner that was responsible for the hold on Marvin Harrison on the defensive holding that called back that brought the touchdown back. It was him who they actually shifted over to guard him. He was basically mirroring Marvin Harrison Jr. wherever he went for a little while there. And then they kind of went back to doing different things and bracketing him and all this different stuff. So I agree with you, but that's where I think Ryan Day does deserve credit, is getting him open and scheming him open, especially late in that game. And he obviously gets the touchdown late, which kind of sealed the deal. And that was huge. But I'll say this, you mentioned McCord maybe being too locked in on him. If Ohio State loses, now listen, if they lose and he's just flat out missing players who are wide open in the process, then he's going to get criticism. But if you go down with the ship and the ship is basically, you know what, let's throw it up to one of the best players, or maybe the best skill player on the planet right now in college football, I'm not going to necessarily fault you for that. That's the type of guy who can win a lot of those 50-50 chances. He did a couple times today. And so I don't blame him for necessarily continuing to go to him. And obviously it paid off in the end. But yeah, I think one of the best things about the second half of this game and when Kyle McCord kind of got comfortable was he was going to, this is what this game came down to for me, Nick, at the end. It was kind of a grinded out game, very, very close, one possession up until the final few minutes here. And the difference became what I think the difference is in these two rosters when you look at them, which is you knew Penn State had a really good defense. You felt like Ohio State had a really good defense. You knew Penn State probably had the better quarterback, but you knew Ohio State probably had the better skill positions. Offensive line, you thought Penn State was probably a little bit better than Ohio State. They've had some issues running the ball. But I go back to the skills position thing. That was the difference. When Ohio State knew things were a little bit tight, they were trying to kind of find a way to milk the game and put it away and get out of there with the win. They went to the guys where their strength is, and that was the skill positions. It was Marvin Harrison Jr., it was Carnell Tate at times, it was Stover. When they needed those guys most, they started going to them, they started relying on them, and those guys kind of carried them across the finish line, which is what you expect from a team that has those types of players.
So it's not that I disagree with you, but I also think it's that at no point did Penn State ever fall into where their strength was, which was, I just think that left side of
Doesn't that go back to James Franklin though?
100%. Yeah. And I think,
he overthinks it against Ohio State.
I think he just, yes. I think overthinking it's fair. I also think, quite frankly, he doesn't have an ethos to fall back on. Right? He, in this game, I think he was you know what? I'm going to be aggressive and then I'm going to pucker. I'm an aggressive and I'm going to pucker. And it's he was overly aggressive.
You got to pick one. Early. Pick a lane.
Yeah. To me, this game screamed, I'm going to come out. I'm going to run the ball early because I'm going to set the physical edge. And I'm going to use that left side of my line until they can't stop me. And then in the second half, no matter what the score is, I'm going to give the kid a chance. But not only did he not do that, he put all the short little piddly stuff on Drew Aller's arm because he wasn't running the ball consistently and he wasn't winning the time of possession battle. And then he's not giving the kid a chance to go down the field. And it's like you can't do both things. You can't expose the kid in the short passing game and intermediate passing game and then not just give him something to say, you've got a howitzer. All right. One play. I mean, we saw that with the touchdown call back. One play can change the part of this game. And I just thought you never really deployed that. And I think defensively, you just never generated enough consistent pressure on McCord to get the absolute worst of McCord out. And I think McCord's numbers are a little inflated. But who cares? Like, he won. And also, I want to make sure we give credit to this, to the Sickos Committee Twitter handle, who came up with, if we're going to call Maserati Marvin, we got to go with Kyle, or what is it, the Honda McCord, which is now
good.
It's so good to me because it's
perfect. That is officially that is a staple on the show now. We're calling him Honda McCord.
Yeah,
yes.
And I almost botched the delivery of it, but we made up for it because you bought into it, and that's all that really